We have a number of presentations related to this set of topics. So we have a few handouts. We have a tutorial here, which I would encourage you to read. In addition to the chapters of the book, I would just proceed in this order. Like open the chapter, start reading the chapter, check the tutorial. Then, of course, today we're going to go over these handouts. And the handouts actually include the conversation about files and examples of using files. In addition, there are also other formats for these handouts: sequential access to files and random access to files, which cover more specific topics related to the strategies to work with files when you're working with the file system. But the good news is that everything that we learn about input-output streams in C++, all this knowledge directly applies to working with with all sorts of streams, including files and including network connections, which is incredibly convenient and just also very essential skill to use in your coding. Many tasks can be solved with streams. For example, conversions from internal data types to external readable text and vice versa can also be used with input-output streams. There are special types of streams that allow us to solve data conversion tasks. So we're going to demonstrate this in the code starting now. Excuse me. I already started a project here, which is at current state is just an empty project, but I'm going to add a new source file. And I'm going to name this source file main.cpp to start our presentation. And as usual, I will push the source file to the source subfolder, which will be created automatically for me in my project. And just click Add. The examples of input-output streams that we already discussed, and we were using those input-output streams for some time already. They were called standard library character output, standard library character input, and when we were covering exceptions and errors, we also said that there is a special type of output stream named CERR, character error device, similar to output, but it's a device that normally should accept messages about errors or error messages. And there's also a special type called CLog, which is a logging device, right? So if you're programming on a server, it's very typical to use some kind of logging so that if something goes wrong, then the log can be examined. So log device is also available in the library. And all of this comes from the header named IOStream. Okay, so these devices above. If you want to work with files, you include fstream. The fstream file, the header file in the system provides access to objects that allow us to open files, read files, write files, and essentially navigate the files, find out the size of the file, and so forth. So file fstream is the header for working with files. So at least these two will be used today by us as we make progress through our samples today. Now, to mention also, there are two using C++ standard library streams. There are two, we'll just say, supports. The library supports two ways to work with streams. It includes formatted output, formatted, we'll say input, output, and also unformatted, which means raw byte manipulation. We can say low level raw byte manipulation, which means that instead of recognizing integers or strings or text or characters, we just want to work with individual bytes, perhaps because we're opening a file which was encrypted, and every byte in that file just looks like unrecognizable binary byte. So that's the idea. So I would say whenever possible, this should be the choice. And only special formats will, like when you're designing your own database, or when you're, like I said, working with a zipped file or encrypted file, this would be the choice to use unformatted type of um, input or output with these streams. The streams are ready for both kinds of processing. So so far we've been using this a lot, right? So basically, whenever we use this or this, okay, or there was also an example of get line where we used, for example, standard input and some kind of string over here. I meant to, right? So get line function that comes, by the way, get line function, to be able to use it, it is actually coming from string. Okay, this is for get line. If you want to use get line, you need to include the string. So these facilities, this type of input, this type of output, right, and also get line function, those are the three to manipulate formatted input output. Okay, so it's extremely simple, and I mean, there are some intricacies on how to handle stream states between inputs and outputs. But besides that, it's just this, just using these operators and using getLine. Everything that you can do to create an output looks like this. It's just basically there is a get something, there is put something. These are the two very simple ways to manipulate individual bytes, get and put, which are functions built into character streams, or any other streams that we want to use, like for instance, when working with files or network devices. All right, so this is these are two major parts of what we would like to be covering today. And of course, we are going to start with the formatted input output and discuss that first. So for this, let's take a look at the presentation next.